You know what's crazy? Everything is moving around us, but FM is kind of standing still. And I think this beautiful artwork represents how things are actually moving. This is a picture of 2 seconds only of a ballet dancer dancing in the nude. And you see her movement patterns moving around all the screen. And everything seems so fluently over time. This is the same kind of picture, same technique, but then I pointed at buildings in Amsterdam. And at the front, you see the boats floating by. But if you look at the buildings, they are really stable, really still, really fixed. But as I heard today already, we live in a dynamic world with all these disruptive technologies and sensors, and where everything moves and everything try to interact with each other. Some integral corporations working together. But still, facilities don't really respond to dynamics. This guy here, he's a cool guy. He is the one who obstructs all the facilities. He wants to break the walls and wants to be the walls be dynamic. But usually we don't really do that. We need to adapt to the things that are really stable and still. And because of that, we become molded by our environment. For example, this guy here, he probably broke down these pillars standing there. But I think nobody of you have thought about these pillars. Well, I would want to remove them today because they are just there. And they're kind of annoying, aren't they? Because you can't really see the people around you. So without you even knowing it, you adapt your own behavior and even your own mind to the facilities you live in today. But adapting is also very, very useful. Because organizations have their own values and their own beliefs and their own cultures. And when you start to work in an organization, you need to adapt and change your own mind towards that organization. So the organization can unify people and working together, as you are also adapting to the environment that you're sitting in right now. All these chairs that you were given these chairs, so you needed to adapt to the position of those chairs. So they unified you sitting together, looking at me, where I also adapted to stand on this stage here. And it might not be the best way to do it like this, but we adapted to the environment, and that's very healthy for us, because then in that way we can unify and work together. But employees also have their own values, beliefs, and cultures, and they all also have their own way of expressing who they are. So they need to connect with each other. And facilities are a communication tool to do this, because you both need to adapt to each other, the organization and the employees, and they all have their own way of thinking, their own social norms, and they need to go together through one door. So over time, you can see something like this. You can see an organization, and you can see an employee, and together they need to find each other and find a stable state where they can live with the same values and the same mission. And in a systems perspective, we call this interaction an attractor state. A state where the system evolves to and comes together and find a relative balanced state where things kind of seem usual. And that is also something what happens here today. We have presentations, so it's kind of usual to have a PowerPoint and sit there and on the white chair. It's in your system, so you're used to it. So we do it without even thinking about it. It doesn't necessarily say it's the best way, but it's a usual way. So you get attracted towards a certain state to an attractor. But there are different ways to work together. For example, you can have a non-adaptive FM, and if the FM doesn't adapt to its employee, the employee needs to adapt and change towards FM, and that costs a lot of effort for employees. So if the facility management doesn't imply with questions for like, I want to have special furniture, or I need a special mouse, and FM said, no, we don't have money for that. The employee, if he wants to work with the company, needs to adapt. He needs to change. The other one is this, and I mostly prefer this one. It's a semi-adaptive state from the employee and a semi-adaptive state from facility management, where both sides work together, kind of change each other, adapt, change, work together, and become in synchrony. And the last one could also be a state where the FM really changes towards the employees. And that also costs a lot of effort for facility management, and you lose your own identity if you adapt all the time. So on the one side we have the FM, the other one side we have the employees, and they need to communicate. They need to adapt to each other, and if you adapt to each other, you think of each other's mind. So it's called the theory of mind. I need to think what you think, so you can think what I think. And then you look from each other's perspective and interact and grow together. In evolution, we call this state like symbiosis, where animals are interact and cooperate to sustain each other and evolve together. In this example, in the background, you see a whale shark with its cleaner fishes. And the cleaner fishes clean the whale sharks, beneficial for the whale shark, while the cleaner fishes get their own food, and the whale shark gets cleaned. For both parties, that's very handy, very nice. But you can also see it with your dog, for example, or your cat. You have your own cat, you give it food, the cat gets happy, and you have a cat that also makes you happy by cuddling him, by having fun with him. But you could also see it with your colleagues. I hope, at least, that you work together. So if you think like this, when you want to get a flourishing work environment, it's not really the responsibility of facility management, but also not really the responsibility from the employee. Actually, you don't really think in responsibility. You really think in what can we achieve together, where can we go. It's like a shared responsibility where you want to have the best together. But only through interaction you can achieve such a thing, to work together. But what you still see with a lot of organizations, even within the organization, there's a lot of dominance and competition and pretentiousness, giving misinformation about the thing that you're trying to do together. And that's not very good if you want to co-evolve together in one organization. So I would rather see like equality and cooperation and transparency to give the right information to the people you need to really work together. And if you have any problems, you're there to solve it together, and you're there to work together. But how does one interact? It's easy to say, oh, you need to interact and then everything will be fine. Especially when you're a manager in such a large building, and you cannot just come as a facility manager on the floor and say, well, how are you doing? What do you want? And we can arrange it for you. Because it will just be too much time to talk to everybody, every employee, and interact with them. And it's usually always the people who shout the hardest get the most attention, and also something with dominance and that kind of stuff. Well, I believe that data tells the tale through measuring what people are doing, where they are, which spaces they prefer in their workplace, what kind of stuff they do, and what kind of preferences they have. Like what do you want? How do you do that? And you can measure that with like sensors or occupancy, or you can measure it with apps to get a general overview of what everybody would like in the workplace. An FM manager can have use data to have these reports that he collects with from his employees. But we kind of talk like data, but data is never the end. It's not information, it's nothing on itself, because you need to do something with it. You need to work with it, and then act again. And if you act, you need to communicate with your employees again, and your employees will evaluate, or you can self-evaluate the quality of your act, and then you go back to employees again. So it's a non-ending loop of improvement through data, through feedback, where you can work together and co-evolve together. So, on the one hand, you have the facility management. On the other hand, you have the employees. But if you work together, come together, you will get closer and closer and closer. And if you're really in the center, you really don't know on which side you are anymore. And then you're really cooperating. And that's what I think we should need to achieve. Thank you.